How's it going? Welcome back, my wonderful wise ones, to a fantastic video today, because we're going to be discussing The Outer Worlds 2 and how you have been lied to about this game. Yes, you have been lied to about The Outer Worlds 2, and I myself am surprised at how good this game is. Yes, it's actually good. It's actually a great game, surprisingly. Yes, so I want to talk about that today. I want to discuss The Outer Worlds 2, what this game actually is, why so many people are trying to hate on this game, and, to give it fair criticism as well, because I don't think this game is perfect, and it does do some things I don't like, but honestly, since New Vegas, okay, I've always wanted this kind of experience. And I'm honestly surprised at how many people are hating and dogging on this game.
You know how much I sacrificed?
Simply because of Obsidian's past track record of Avowed, and I do understand because I don't think Avowed was a great game. It wasn't a bad game by any means, but it wasn't necessarily a good RPG. It did win me over at the beginning. Now, I did actually praise Avowed in my early review because that was early gameplay. Now, with this is why I'm discussing this game again, because I've already done my early access coverage, but I actually want to dive deeper into this because this game has hooked me much longer than, like the first initial 10 hours or so. I'm heavily into this game right now, and honestly, I think it's pretty great. It's doing everything that I've wanted for a long time, since New Vegas, like I said. But a lot of people are just dogpiling on this simply because that's the cool thing to do right now. Hate gets clicks.
You know how much I sacrificed?
You have to remember that YouTube, and especially the gaming space, is full of grifters and shills, and I always try and call them out. There's plenty of them, people who steal content. Even GameRanks steals content from other creators. Luke Stevens, he plagiarizes videos and just steals people's scripts and stuff like that. There are so many people out there because they want to secure the bag from the developers, so they either shill the game or they go the opposite route and crap all over a game, because then it gets the hate clicks. It gets the angry people who are obsessed with, hating on something, to get them, subscribing, to become your audience and all that kind of shit. But here's the thing. I know you watching right now, yes, you, okay? You're a wise one, okay? You're subscribed to the channel because you believe in objective reality thinking, okay? You believe in analysis, and you believe in, fair, critical analysis when it comes to anything in life. That's what I hope I'm building on this channel, a community of wise intellectuals who also love video games and philosophy like I do. So you can look at this game objectively, without your bias, I hope. And of course, you can say Avowed was a bad game, and it had a lot of crap in it, maybe even some hidden agenda, some ideologies thrown in there for good measure because it's modern day gaming and we can't escape it. And I am against all of that shit. I think it should stay out of our video games. We want video games to be an art form, a transformative art form that takes us, to a new place, a new experience. That's the point of fiction, to bridge the gap. Lord of the Rings, a prime example, is obviously got some Christianity, ethics, and philosophy, and, some ideology underneath it all, but it never makes that apparent, okay? It's transformative storytelling. That's what art should be. So I hope you can look at this game with a, fair, objective take, because, let's face it, The Outer Worlds 1 wasn't a good game, for me anyway. I don't think it was amazing. It was okay for what it was, a very light RPG, and a lot of people loved it. That's fine. If you do, it's an okay game, but it wasn't amazing. Then it came Avowed. Both of these games, think of them as building blocks to get towards The Outer Worlds 2. This game is a proper, true RPG in every sense of the word, and it does what New Vegas did back then, but we do need to, have a higher bar. It can't just be, as good as a game that came out 10 years ago or whatever it was at this point. It needs to do more things, and sadly I don't think it does that. I still think New Vegas is a better game.
What?
but it gets so close to being great that I just can't help wonder why so many people are hating on this game when actually it's a fantastic RPG experience. I'm going to try and keep this spoiler free, and I'm going to try and give you some examples without going into detail about some things. But, I want to draw some comparisons to, older Bethesda games like Fallout 3, New Vegas, because it does so many cool stuff, like little winks back at these games, that just made me smile because I love those games so much.
There is much to be skeptical of in this world, so it no longer surprises me to learn how many people don't really believe in anything. What's the point? For many of us, the road is a difficult one, but the path is always there for us to follow, no matter how many times we may fall. The good news is that we can help you find your way back. Naturally, some days are harder than others, but I must try.
So get subscribed today, become a wise one if you're not already. I really do appreciate it. Give the video a like so it actually gets shared, because the algorithm hates me, and it would be great to actually have this video get more attention, because I honestly think this game deserves more love. I've seen so many just posts online saying how bad this game is and how it's just Unreal Engine 5 slop. So I'm going to start off with an example, because I think that's the best thing, lead by example, not by just rambling like a madman. Everyone praised the Megaton explosion in Fallout 3 just because it added so much weight. It felt like, every single NPC in that area was now dead, okay? You could not complete any quests for them, there was no saving them, there was only one survivor left, and a similar thing happens in the Outer Worlds 2, where you might be able to find like one survivor or something like that, but it has the same grand impact. All of the quests I could see on my quest log just disappearing, saying failed, failed, failed. The whole side faction quest that I don't get access to because of this choice that I made. Now, I'm not going to tell you, which one I chose, as I am trying to keep it relatively spoiler-free, and that is the major spoiler that I'll be talking about. The rest, I'm not going to discuss many spoilers, but I just had to give you an example, because this game allows you to miss content. It allows you to play in many different ways, thanks to the floor system, which is a unique take on the RPG formula, in my opinion, and it adds a lot. I thought it was just going to be small little buffs and debuffs, from what I saw with the early access stuff, but actually, later on, there are some truly big ones that you can choose to take that alter the whole gameplay experience. For example, now I'm playing as a character that is kind of a jack of all trades, if you will, but I can't actually then specify in a particular, area, like explosives or speech. I can only go so far because I've taken that floor, which allows me to take other ones, but at a certain limit, which kind of limits my progression.
Are you serious?
So I didn't really understand just how great the actual combat was, because the loot that you get early on is quite boring, a simple rifle and a pistol and stuff like that, which is what I had access to. But as you progress, you can find unique items and actual unique weapons that add so much more to the actual game itself and the combat, and it becomes a really good shooter by the end of it, especially if you specify in, shooting. Like I said, you can play it different ways, and I think Fallout New Vegas, even though it is a better game simply because of the world and my passion for Fallout and the lore of Fallout, if you don't know, I make tons of Fallout content because it's my favorite franchise, but I still think, this steps it up above, games like New Vegas, in its combat department, at least, because it's just so good, and it's actually, better than Fallout 4, better than most RPGs that do combat. So those are just a few points I wanted to get off the bat, because it's quite surprising to me that an RPG can actually have fun, great gameplay, not just dialogue-wise, but, shooting, finding loot, and it brings me back to those older games, like I referenced, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, older Bethesda titles, older Obsidian titles, where finding unique weapons and unique loot was common, and it's not just, a reskin, or just, a percentage boost or anything like that, like an actual unique weapon, like, different variations, like I've got this awesome fire shotgun that actually looks completely different and has a super cool burning effect, like actual unique shit. That's what, a lot of RPGs have been missing for a long time, and The same thing with the reactivity of this world. So many different choices, like I said. Of course, there's a set limit to them, like any game, even Baldur's Gate 3, which is a masterpiece. It has a set limit, but there is a lot of variation. Maybe not to the same degree of New Vegas, but certainly more than Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and the Outer Worlds original, and it's actually way better than Avowed, of course, but it's an actual RPG. Like, a lot of people that I've seen online are just talking shit about this game, like, oh, the Outer World is dead, Obsidian are cooked, and I was worried that that might be the case. I was also thinking Obsidian have kind of lost their ways.
You know how much I sacrificed?
But this shows you that they still have it in them. Now, there are things I don't like about this game, like some of the writing I think is pretty shit and quite modern day inspired, and I don't like that crap in my video games. But it's not terrible. It's much more of a serious game, and I didn't like the first game because it was so much like satire down your throat. Wink wink, Obsidian, we're actually part of the consumer-based society, capitalist society that we like to make fun of. Don't you want to buy our $70 edition of this game?
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
That kind of shit. And especially that we live in this world right now where we do live in a consumer capitalist dystopian nightmare to a point, with mega corporations working with governments, corrupting governments, paying off politicians, influencing things, and everything being globalized. Like, you can go to Starbucks in China and fly over all the way into like the middle of nowhere in goddamn Ireland and find a Starbucks. Like, we live in this corporate world, and I don't want to just see that reflected in a video game without having anything new to say about it, and it just being like just degrading constant satire that's not actually funny, that's actually cringeworthy, bad writing. And honestly, there is still a lot of that in this game, but you can ignore it depending on what faction you want to align with, because it is only one faction that really has this, viewpoint. A lot of the different factions now feel way more fleshed out. It feels like an actual universe with different beliefs. Obviously not as great as something like the Fallout universe, but it is still much better, in my opinion, and it allows the freedom for you to choose. And there isn't so much of that, and because there's this serious undertone of an actual war and everything feeling much more fleshed out, like, it's not as annoying as the first game. And honestly, some of the writing is actually brilliant, and then sometimes you find a character with pretty terrible dialogue. So it is a bit of a mixed bag, but certainly it's a lot better than Avowed, and certainly it's actually got some great writing in there, honestly, and a serious undertone. So I do think that even though some of the writing is terrible, some of it is actually great, which is very surprising, and that makes it much more of a compelling RPG. Now, the one kind of disappointing thing about Obsidian games, unlike Bethesda, is they never really allow for mod support. But thanks to today's sponsor, Xmod, you can do that, because this allows you to add trainers and mods to any of your favorite single-player games, and that's why I love it, because it works with any game. So here we are on Xmod with the Outer Worlds 2 that is newly released. I'm very excited about it. So you can have things like, adding unlimited health, or you can add things like God mode, no full damage. That's a big deal at the moment, which is quite annoying in the game, so you can toggle that on and off. They've also started to add mods already, so you can have optimized tweaks. You can have more skill points per level, so you can really truly make it, an RPG that you want. Better skills, easier perks and flaws, or better time dilation, just stuff to make it truly make it feel like a flexible RPG. So as you can see here, I've activated infinite health, and I'm not taking any damage whatsoever, which is quite nice, because sometimes you just want to play around and, get the loot that you want to get out. But it's not just infinite health. You can customize this in any way to make it more of an RPG experience tailored to your needs. Xmod is a platform that unlocks thousands of free cheats, mods, and trainers for your favorite single-player PC games. Now, I've always felt that games are like a canvas, and mods are the paintbrush. They basically allow you to create your own unique experience, and that's why I love modding so much. Now, the main features of Xmod is it supports over 5,000 PC games, from massive AAA games to smaller indie titles. It works well with popular games like The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk 2077, or Skyrim or Fallout, you name it, it has you covered. With regular updates, it stays compatible with brand new games releasing day one. So what are you waiting for? Get modding today by using Xmod. Link below in the description. Make sure you go check it out and enjoy the games at their full potential with Xmod. Now, to get into a few negatives, I would say is the exploration to me kind of sucks ass. All of the exploration feels very pointless unless if it is tied to a quest. That's something that they failed completely on this game, I would say, compared to something like Fallout New Vegas or Bethesda, older games. It doesn't have that exploration, but the world is very reactive. You know, the factions actually matter now. They actually have, you know, a meter which will piss them off or not. You know, like New Vegas. Obviously, it's not as detailed. Like, why can't we have that disguise system back? Why can't we have, you know, more reactionary things happening when you do piss off a faction? But still, it is there to a degree and much better. You know, we haven't seen that in like 10 years or something. And now onto the main point. The reason why I see this video getting so much hate, the reason why you have been lied to about The Outer Worlds 2, and why I think The Outer Worlds 2 actually puts AAA gaming to shame in many ways, because this is still kind of AA, but it feels AAA. And it does put AAA studios to shame with how good they're doing things. Like, the world is interactive. At any point throughout a level or a mission, you know, a dungeon, a, you know, incel area, whatever you want to call it, you know, there's opportunities to utilize your skills, like explosives, like science, or speech, or engineering. You know, there's so many different ways to navigate, and then there's so many different outcomes to a quest, for the most part. So it does truly feel like, you know, classic Fallout New Vegas inspired gameplay. But the reason I see this get so much hate online is simply because of the woke factor. Because remember, everything has to be woke now, and it's so goddamn ridiculous. Like, the anti-woke grifters on YouTube have become just as bad as the people they used to make fun of, and I'm so surprised that so many people still buy this shit up. I guess because they're so brainwashed into group identity politics that this is their whole identity now. And it's very sad to see, because, you know, there are things that have an agenda, and I am against, like I said, you know, agendas in video games, and I don't support anything woke, by the way. I'm not, you know, a fan of that bullshit. I believe in objective science and, you know, all of that stuff, but I'm not going to get into all of that today. But calling everything woke just simply because it has, you know, bright colors or a lot of saturation, or you see a few characters with, you know, dyed hair or something like that, that is literally brain rot, and it doesn't allow for any nuance or any conversation to be had about what's actually good about this game. And it's just a way, like I said, for these grifters to get views, and that is the main problem. That is what I'm seeing a lot of, is people hate this game simply because of its theme, because of its, you know, aesthetic. And to a point, I kind of understand that. The marketing for this game was terrible, and I think that the art style that they chose is actually pretty bad in many ways, but at times it's actually great, and it's detailed and it's beautiful. But sadly, you do get these grifters that will just call everything woke without giving you actual evidence of that, because I don't think that this game has an agenda. Of course, there are different characters that you meet that say something maybe a little bit weird, but then there's plenty of characters in here that support, you know, like really messed up things that are completely anti the woke ideology that you can actually help in this game. So it's just kind of stupid that people are saying this when it's not forcing you, because the whole point of this is it's an RPG and you can choose who you want to be in this game world. You can literally kill everyone if you want. So it's just insane to me, and that is the biggest thing that I've seen. You know, like, all of the numbers are gone down, like no one's playing this game. Look, Obsidian is dead, they're cooked, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not even a huge Obsidian fanboy. I don't really care, but I do think this is actually a good RPG, and it's just kind of sad that so many people in this community, you know, the Fallout New Vegas community, or the Fallout community, I want to call it, or even just people who love RPGs, have been looking for a game like this, and here we have it. It's pretty good, but there's just so much hate and misinformation about this game, so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. So one thing that I will say that I'm not a big fan of The Outer Worlds 2 is some of the characters, okay? Some of them are pretty well done, but some of them are quite annoying, or just they kind of have a lot of verbal diarrhea at times, where they just say something inane which doesn't really need to be said, and it just feels like kind of word diarrhea, just, you know, just filler, basically. And a lot of that is quite annoying, and some of the dialogue is like that, but, you know, basically Starfield dialogue, as I would like to describe it, but it's not all like that. And I do like that this universe, this world, isn't trying to play it completely safe. It does actually have some questions in there. Obviously, it's not thematically as in-depth as something like New Vegas, where it plays with actual interesting philosophies and ideologies. I did a full philosophical breakdown of the Fallout factions, by the way. Check out that video if you're interested, and comparing it to real world ideologies and stuff. It doesn't have that, you know, depth to it, but it does still have some interesting questions that will make you reflect on things. But sadly, the companions are quite annoying, a lot of them, but over the course of the game they do get more interesting. And like I said, it's an RPG. For example, the woman with the grafted arm, I don't know her name because I literally blew her up in a settlement, like I told you about. So it allows for that choice, and I just think that this is actually a great RPG. It builds on the formula of New Vegas, adds some improvements actually, like the floor system, like the combat, like unique weapons. It doesn't have good exploration, doesn't have some of the depth, but it does still have good enough writing, and in fact sometimes great writing, and the worlds are interesting to explore when you are following a quest. So honestly, I think this is, you know, Obsidian's best game since New Vegas, and I just wanted to call that out. I wanted to explain why I think you're being lied to about this game, because everyone's saying that this game has failed and it's a bad game, but when you look at the reviews on Steam, for example, people are loving this game, except for the 1% that are literally clowning on it because of their twisted ideologies and group thinking, which is everything that they're supposed to be against, but there you go. So that is what I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to get it off my chest, to give you my thoughts of this game so far, and the kind of conversations that's happening about this, the twisted ideologies that ruin media, honestly, when we do actually get nice escapism. Obviously, you know, there are some things in this game that does make it feel very modern day-esque, and does kind of draw you out of the experience, but I haven't seen that much of that, to be honest, and it does actually feel like good fiction for the most part. So I just wanted to discuss that today. Be a wise one, be objective, think for yourself, don't fall into group mentality or tribal thinking. It is the worst thing in this world, and that is what I'm trying to destroy on this channel with my philosophy, Solism. Check out the playlist of my philosophical videos if you're interested. I just wanted to talk about this game because I feel like it's a great game, but the conversation around this game is holding it back, and it's limiting people from actually trying this out themselves and realizing that actually there's a good RPG here. And as a die-hard Fallout New Vegas fan, it's crazy to me that a lot of people are, you know, saying that this is bad when it does a lot of what New Vegas did, and it actually has great choices and a world worth exploring. Thank you for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace out.